people really talk about remarkable experiences. And if you can stand out by doing something amazing, you have a higher chance of success. There's so much mediocrity and there's so much the same that making the effort to stand out really delivers results.
Wow.
No, thank you. It's a forklift. Do you know what this does? Fork haul. You'll do this. Yeah, this is really... Hi, I'm Marcel. I'm a remote IT worker, amateur darts player, and I used to be a magician for 20 years. My principle was always pack small, play big. So even when I was traveling around Africa, my entire show had to fit in one hand luggage suitcase. So the restriction for my shows was, can I fit it in my hand luggage in a plane? And the best part of being a magician was doing a job that I loved, particularly and specifically the performance part of it. I was getting paid to be on stage and control my environment for fun, for money. That was the best part. The travel, really enjoyed the opportunity to travel around with a suitcase of tricks and go and see Africa. That was really cool. Being able to spend time in places that most people would never be able to go to, like a 6-star hotel for New Year's Eve in the Seychelles, being backstage in theaters where other people have never been to, but also I would say even those all came with negatives too. I mean, it's all great about the traveling, but traveling is stressful. It's all great to do the stage show and get paid for it, but you don't get paid for writing the marketing copy and putting the video together. You get paid when you're on stage, you get nothing when you're off, and you can't be on stage every evening. So, and that little bit of healthy stress before you get onto stage going, am I prepared? Have I done everything I can possibly do to be there? Which is both thrilling and scary at the same time. And then to walk off stage and go, that worked. I got them. I nailed that. That was great fun. So in early 2016, I came up with this idea to make a theatre called the Cape Town Magic Club. It wasn't a wholly entirely original idea. Other magicians in South Africa had opened stage shows and made little theatres, but not to the degree of what I wanted to create. And a friend and dear colleague of mine in the UK, John Lenihan, I had met him several years prior, and he'd said, well, why don't you just put a theatre show together? And he was like going, we use a theatre on Monday nights and we call it Monday Night Magic, and I invite all magicians to perform. And that idea had stuck with me. Spoke to a couple of colleagues, older magician friends of mine, younger magician friends of mine. I said, look, I want to put this theatre together. Would you come and perform in the show? We're going to do 10 evenings, 2 shows every Monday night. For 10 weeks, and we're going to promote it and we're going to make it look like this really cool magic theatre. And they were on board immediately. And Cape Town Magic Club was this remarkable little space which, for magic in Africa, had never been done like that before. Nothing like that has come close since. The opportunity to have an evening where you as the audience could see 3 top magicians perform every night, and then come the following week and see 3 other magicians perform. I really wanted to showcase the magic talent that we have in Cape Town, because Cape Town really has, per capita, way too many magicians. So the Cape Town Magic Club was an intimate theatre that seated 30, maximum 40 people. And we ran 2 shows a night over about 7 years. So 7 seasons of shows, over 100 shows, over several thousand people in the audience. And it was Africa's premier magic theatre. There were 2 tricks, 2 illusions that I became known for. Early on in my career, It was the floating money trick, where somebody would lend me a banknote, and I'd crumple it up and it would fly off my hand. And when I was doing restaurants and close-up and walk-around magic, that was, just out of nowhere, money would start flying around, and I could make it fly off the audience member's hand. And it was also a way to get the person's money out of their wallets, so that when I was working restaurants, that was how I got my tip afterwards. So that was the one. And then later on, it was metal bending. So I would take cutlery, and by gently touching it, rubbing it, and waving my hands over it, the cutlery would start to bend and twist. And then I'd give it away to somebody. That would be like a memento of the occasion. And I eventually created that as a stand-up routine where I'd use several pieces of cutlery, and they'd be in paper bags around the audience and somebody on stage. And as the one on stage moved and bent, the cutlery would bend in the bags and within the audience's hands. So where the flying money trick was something that worked well for close, intimate audiences early on in my career, the metal bending was the part that was when I started being on stage for 100 to 1,000 people. That was the kind of magic that worked well for that space. The cool part about performing regularly is that you do these little incremental improvements and changes. So you get like 80 or 90% of the work done where you want it to be, and then you get the opportunity to every time refine it. Like, do I make one extra joke? What's the punchline here? And there were things that I learned after performing the metal bending, for example, where I learned something that I'd been performing that trick for 8 years. But in the 9th year, I realized there's something that works, and I've missed that for 8 years. Like, there was a little bit of finesse that took 8 years of crafting and honing to suddenly make a big switch in how I did a part of the process. And I saw like a big jump in the result from it. And it was like, you only get that from crafting that over and over and over again. I'm really lucky. I mean, I took something that was a hobby and fun and for pocket money, and for 20 years, I was a magician. It was all the travel that went with it, meeting people, nice dinners, earning good money at some points. All of that was a lot of fun, and met some really cool people and saw amazing shows, and putting a theatre together was like pinnacle of my experience. But I don't think a lot of people realized how difficult it actually was. What you saw in the shows was me at my very best, in my element. But the offstage work was incredibly difficult. It was hard to form good friendships because I was working evenings. I'd have these business colleagues friendships that were more about networking and establishing where I was in society and in the entertainment world. Those friendships didn't last once I left. Sustainable income, incredibly difficult. And then the depression that comes from having to try and find out how to make shows work. People didn't realize how difficult that was. And as a magician, you can never show that because you're doing the impossible all the time. So when people ask now, like, would you want to go back to that? It's very easy for me to say no. I think I got the best out of what I was able to do. I really, really pushed the boundaries of what I was capable of doing with the resources that I had. I don't think I could have done much better, but it had to end. And COVID was a beautiful way to do that because nobody asked questions. Now, this was a prized magic wand that was in the London Magic Circle. John was given this as a gift. You wouldn't know the magician's name, but amongst magicians, it's got quite a big, well-known name. And it was specially weighted, made from imported Italian oak. And if you check it out, the thread on this thing is amazing. You don't get brain like that anymore, these things.